Some killers make mistakes. Some even want to get caught. But what if someone kills without leaving a trace? No DNA, no witnesses, no motive. Israel Keyes, one of the most unknown serial killers in American history. Because to him, murder was an art form, calculated, random, precise. Until one day, he made a small mistake. March 2012. Texas seemed calm, until a white Ford parked in front of a roadside motel caught the eye of a state trooper. It matched the description. Agents watched from a distance. Soon, the driver returned and pulled onto the road. Police followed, just a few miles over the speed limit, enough to stop him. They pulled him over, and as the man stepped out, the FBI's most wanted suspect was now in custody. His name, Israel Keyes, charged with the abduction, sexual assault, and murder of 18-year-old barista Samantha Koenig. But this wasn't just another crime. This was the unveiling of a monster. A man who built his murders like blueprints. And even in custody, he was still in control. Love true crime that makes your pulse race? Subscribe, hit like, and drop a quick comment. Let's dive deeper together. Israel Keyes was born in 1978 in Utah, the second of 10 children, but his childhood was anything but ordinary. His father, driven by religious beliefs, decided to isolate the family from society. The Keyes family moved to a remote cabin deep in the forests of Washington state. No electricity, no running water, no neighbors, just trees, silence, and religion. The children grew up hunting and gathering wood in the wild. Israel was introduced to firearms at a young age. Killing animals became a hobby. Every living heart was a potential target. And no one noticed, because Israel was always quiet, very quiet. By the age of 14, he was sneaking into neighbors' houses, stealing guns and selling them. He even once started a fire in the forest. He was more than just a child. He was a loneliness feeding the darkness inside. His family eventually kicked him out, claiming he held satanic thoughts. Even his siblings were forbidden to see him. Israel was now completely alone, and that loneliness laid the foundation for a serial killer. Israel Keyes, now cut off from his family, pushed into solitude, but the darkness he was born into would continue to follow him in the outside world. He soon became fascinated by Satanism. He spent hours researching dark rituals, sacrifice ceremonies, filling his mind with grim fantasies. Then, one summer, deep in the remote wilderness of Maupin, Oregon, Keyes joined a group of young people traveling along the Deschutes River, and that's where he found her, a girl traveling with friends. He waited patiently for a moment when she was alone. In a wooded area, Keyes grabbed her, he kidnapped her, sexually assaulted her, and then let her go. He had planned to kill her. He wanted it to be part of a satanic ritual. But he couldn't do it. That failure ignited a storm inside him. He was furious, not at her, but at himself. He called himself weak, too shy, not violent enough. Just weeks later, on July 9th, 1998, Keyes enlisted in the United States Army in the state of New York. It looked like he was seeking discipline, but in reality, he was only sharpening his mask. He served overseas as well. During his military service, he was quiet, reserved. He liked to be alone, liked to go out alone, but no one had any idea what was brewing in his mind. In July 2001, after leaving the military, he moved to Neah Bay, Washington. There he met a woman named India. They started living together. India had a young daughter, and together they looked like any other normal family. But behind that image, a killer was making new plans. In 2007, they moved to Alaska. Keyes founded a construction company called Keyes Construction. A new house, a new life. But inside, he was still the same man, and now, that life had become a mask. It was February 1st, 2012. 18-year-old Samantha Koenig had been working at a small coffee stand in Anchorage, Alaska for about a month. She was on the late shift that night, alone. Friendly, energetic, loved by customers. She already had her regulars. But that night, that coffee stand would become the center of a chilling nightmare. Israel Keyes had been surveilling 4 different businesses in the area. He had a plan, and Samantha's coffee stand fit it perfectly. It stayed open late. The surroundings were quiet. In his mind, it was the perfect hunting ground. He chose February 1st for a reason. The next day, he had cruise tickets departing from Louisiana to Mexico. He had prepared everything in advance. At his Anchorage shed, he laid out a large tarp across the floor. Easier cleanup. He set up 2 space heaters. Around 8 p.m., he checked the traffic. Everything was ready. He got in his car and drove to the stand. Waited in his car. Watched. He was looking for the right moment. Then, he pulled a ski mask over his face and walked up. Samantha was the only one inside. Israel ordered a coffee. When she turned around to make it, he pulled out his gun, and from that moment on, there was no turning back. He told her to turn off the lights, then to get on her knees. He ignored her tears, her pleas, took the cash from the register, then forced her into his car and drove to his prepped shed. Back at home, his girlfriend and her daughter were asleep. He turned up the music in the car to mask any sounds. At the shed, he told Samantha to stay calm, that this was just a kidnapping for ransom. He was lying. He asked for her bank card. She told him it was in her boyfriend's truck, so he gagged her, drove to the truck, took the card, stopped by his house and poured himself a glass of wine, then returned to the shed, and that night, he didn't stop. He sexually assaulted Samantha, then strangled her, wrapped her body in the tarp, placed it in a cabinet, turned off the heater, and went back home like nothing had happened. Morning came. He woke up his daughter for school, then called a cab and headed to the airport. He was off, on vacation. First, the cruise, then Texas. He claimed he set a house on fire, robbed a place, and committed an armed bank robbery. FBI would later confirm those crimes. On February 19th, he returned to Anchorage, opened the cabinet, took out the body, applied makeup to the face, used fishing line to keep the eyelids open, and committed necrophilia again. Then he texted Samantha's boyfriend, told him to deposit money into her account. Otherwise, he'd never see her again. In early March, he flew to Las Vegas, rented a car, and drove to Arizona. With Samantha's card, he withdrew cash from ATMs. He was in disguise, but police took note of a white Ford. The plates weren't clear, but the car stood out. On March 9th, in Texas, he used the card again. And now, every patrol in the region was looking for him. March 13th, 2012. Police in Texas spotted a white Ford parked outside a motel. Something about it seemed off. They decided to wait. There wasn't enough evidence to make an arrest. Not yet. But when the driver returned and pulled away, officers followed. Eventually, the car slightly exceeded the speed limit. That was all they needed. They pulled it over for a routine stop. Backup arrived. They searched the vehicle. Inside, they found stained cash from the bank robbery, the disguise used at the ATM, Samantha Koenig's debit card, and a handgun. Israel Keyes was arrested. He was transferred to Anchorage a few days later. At first, he refused to speak. Then, he agreed to talk, but only under certain conditions. He demanded that nothing be shared with the media, and most importantly, that his daughter would never find out what he had done. Under those terms, he confessed. He had kidnapped and murdered Samantha Koenig. On March 31st, he began to share more, but still off the record. With this new information, Samantha's body was recovered from Matanuska Lake. But that wasn't all. Israel also admitted to the murders of 49-year-old William Currier and 55-year-old Lorraine Currier in Vermont. On the night of June 8, 2011, he broke into their home, tied them up, took them to an abandoned farmhouse. There, he shot William, and after sexually assaulting Lorraine, he strangled her to death. What made this even more chilling? 2 years before the crime, Keyes had buried a kill kit, a bag full of weapons and tools, near the Currier's home. When the time came, he dug it up and used it. After the murders, he buried most of the contents in Parrishville, New York. That bag remained hidden until after his arrest. Israel Keyes planned everything. He traveled across states, hiding weapons, mapping locations, waiting. Each murder in a different place. No patterns, no connections, no mercy. Authorities believe he killed many more, but only 3 murders could be proven beyond doubt. Because for the rest, there were no bodies, no witnesses, and sometimes no confession at all. December 2nd, 2012. Israel Keyes' trial was still in progress. But before the court could reach a conclusion, something unexpected happened. In his prison cell, he took actions that would end the case abruptly. On the wall, marked with red symbols, were 11 drawn skulls, and beside them, he left a handwritten note. But this wasn't just any note. It was filled with scattered thoughts, unusual phrases, and unsettling language. It gave no closure, only raised more questions. Those 11 skulls? Investigators believe they could represent more victims, suggesting a higher number than previously confirmed. If that's accurate, the true scope of what happened may never be fully known. His story became the focus of books, documentaries, and ongoing investigations. But in the end, Keyes ensured that many of his secrets would never be revealed. What remains isn't clarity, it's a shadow, filled with uncertainty. The story of Israel Keyes isn't just about crime, it's about control, secrecy, and a darkness that still leaves people searching for answers. If you're interested in exploring the most mysterious sides of true crime, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because every story we tell here is real, and sometimes the truth is more haunting than fiction.